Well, welcome back to Shimpling Park Farm. Well, when we left you at the end of August, rain had rather stopped to play with combining and it was a really grey harvest. But eventually the sun did come out. There was a lot of moving around between different fields, juggling between crops that were ripening at different times and dodging the rain showers and the very damp mornings. This is a crop of vetch seed, which when ripe has tiny heavy seeds that lie flat on the ground, making them really hard to combine. So we borrowed a flexible cutter bar which seemed to scoop them up beautifully. And our brilliant harvest team worked really late into the night just to make sure we got the job done. And there was some really careful management of the grains to all this harvest, because nothing was really bone dry when we went in. I hate to be a party pooper, but I hate these balloons. Really great fun at a party, but at least once a week I find one somewhere littering the farm and sometimes wrapped around an animal's neck. So if you ever do have party balloons, try and make them biodegradable ones. But at last the end was in sight. And they finished the oats, and they finished the beans, and they finished the barley, and they finished the wheat, and they finished the vetches. And now they're just finishing off by harvesting a few trial crops. This is little plots that you grow to test things and to experiment. So those don't go in the grain store, they go in bags. And then we will be done.
Good?
Yeah, all done?
Yes.
Please?
Yep, very successful.
Good harvest?
I think.
Not a good harvest.
Average,
Okay.
I would think.
At least it's in the barn.
Yes.
Fancy beer. Chinese.
We always have fish and chips in the field and beers, and we don't like to operate heavy machinery after drinking anything, so we abandoned everything in the field, walked back to the yard, and yes, the sun is out. It's an interesting harvest. I think the wheat and the beans have been great. We just got to separate them, but I've been really pleased with the yields from that. Early drill crops, early drill spring crops did well. Winter crops were slightly disappointing, but not bad.
Well, now it's time for the lambs to go to the butcher. I do sometimes find this one a bit difficult, but I do eat meat, and these lambs have certainly had a very nice life. They've also certainly contributed to our sustainable way of farming, so I think if I'm going to eat meat, this is probably one of the better ways to do it. Right, so today, Cameron and George have brought the ewes in, the mummy sheep. It's time for a bit of shearing. Still nice and warm, so the wool will grow back, and it will make sure they don't get any fly strike in the autumn. These New Zealand Romneys get sheared twice a year, and they have pretty premium wool. How many are you going to shear today?
Hopefully we'll get 300 done, but we will see.
How many fleeces fit in one bag?
We tried for about 30 to 40, 50, 60 kilos. Comb is the bit at the bottom, and then the cutter is the top bit, which vibrates side to side at high speed.
earlier in the year, when we knew what babies they were having, singles, twins, triplets, they moved into those groups. But now they're all shorn, they've gone back into their old and original families, and they're moving across the road to their new winter pastures. Well, the new year starts here. It's time to start cultivating and getting the next year's crop in the ground. In the old days, we used to do all this ploughing, but that's not what we do anymore because it releases carbon and it's very expensive. But sometimes we have to use it as part of our armoury. So this is a shallow plough that goes not quite as deeply into the soil, therefore it's cheaper to run and it's less disturbance and it's easier to get a good seedbed later. But when it's really dry, you can't really use it and you have to resort to the older, bigger ploughs. But our one's broken. So Keith's here giving it a mend. It obviously takes a huge amount of stress, that metal work.
You know, people actually probably do plough too often, and it's a good rotational tool and should be used as such. It also mineralises minerals in the soil and organic matter, feeding your crop. But as far as we're concerned on our farm, because we've got lathes in our system, our organic matter is rising rather than falling, even though we are doing some ploughing and some other cultivations. So I think it's wrong to demonise the plough. I think it's a tool, it's a valuable tool, and it should be used with responsibly.
Peter, what are you doing here?
We're dressing spelt ready for drilling in 2 weeks' time. So we're getting all the weeds and everything out. So we've just got pure seed. Really good sample this year.
Good.
Yep.
This is the seed that John took to NIAB the other day to get tested. Tests have come back well, so we're now cleaning it, ready to put it in the ground.
We were going to go drilling this morning. The weather forecast was predicting between 8 and sort of 40 millimetres of rain. I think we've just had about 50. And so it's really wet, but it was so incredibly dry. We had 8 millimetres not that long ago and it just disappeared into nothing, didn't even get down to our green manure seed. So this has really done the job. A bit more than possibly I would have liked in one night, but can't complain about a bit of wet weather just before drilling.
Yeah. It's been incredibly dry, we've had a little rain. We don't want to leave it too late to get the seeds in the ground. It's a matter of trying different machinery to see what's going to work in the specific circumstances.
Well, yeah, it didn't really work with the carrier, so we're going to revert back to a different cultivator. The difficulty is that we're trying to incorporate a massive amount of organic matter that's been growing over the last 2 years, feeding the sheep. We're trying to do something different. Nothing's really obvious, you just got to experiment, and that's what we're doing.
Well, eventually the sun did come out and we were able to start sowing our seeds in the ground, which is what we call drilling. The seeds go in that tank, down those tubes, and feed out through these feet, and they're planted in a row in the ground.
Finding the depth of the seed. So I found there's one of the seeds there. It's covered, it's in moisture. It's covered, so it should grow.
So sometimes when you harvest, the grain's a bit warm or indeed a bit wet. So we have fans which blow hot air underneath the floor and go up through the grain, keeping it in good condition. Because obviously if that goes mouldy, we've got nothing to sell. Very sadly, before this harvest, our very old fans have died. So we're in the process of putting in some very big, very expensive new ones.
Now let's put that panel on the wall.
Yeah.
And it's wired to a generator. Then we have some fans when they arrive. We're waiting for the lorry to bring them. Fans to blow the wind down the tunnel to dry the corn. It's fully automatic. Depending on the temperature and the humidity outside and the temperature of the corn, John will set that up, and then This panel will look after starting the generator when it's called upon. That means that the farmer's wife doesn't have to come out in the middle of the night, turn it on and off.
So how's your ditching gone this year?
Very well, thanks.
Yeah?
Yep.
How
very good.
are ditches in good order?
They are now I've done them.
Do you think ditches are important on a farm?
Very. First thing you do to keep your fields dry. You can't farm wet land.
Well, thank you for joining us at Shimpling Park Farm. As I speak, the rain is falling, so the drilling might get quite difficult this season yet again. Anyway, look forward to seeing you next time.